What's up, everybody? Jordan Stewart here from Vover. Thanks so much for tapping into the Vover original show. Just a reminder that if you want to drop your opinions about the episode or respond to the host and guests with your voice, go and download the Vover app wherever you get your apps. Vover, voice over everything. Enjoyed the show.
Hey, SlabStox Sam here on Charting It Up to talk to you about this week's basketball trender. The Memphis Grizzlies were active players in two surprise trades which were announced within the last week. First, they sent the recently acquired Eric Bledsoe packing to the Los Angeles Clippers, and in return, they primarily acquired Patrick Beverley. A rather odd swap on the surface, but at least it appeared that Patrick Beverley was the perfect fit for the grit and grind personality in Memphis. But then in a surprise twist, Patrick Beverley was almost immediately shipped northward to Minnesota for Jarrett Culver and Juancho Hernan-Gomez, a move which seems to make much more sense for the Grizzlies than it does for Minnesota. Jarrett Culver is now officially an interesting case, at least in my opinion. His stock couldn't be much lower. After two largely disappointing seasons with the Wolves, the not-yet third-year player has already been traded as just a piece for a rapidly aging 33-year-old defensive first guard. Not what the T-Wolves had in mind when they drafted Culver, to be sure. Now, of Culver's two seasons in the league, his first was the COVID-shortened season in which Minnesota was not invited to the bubble, so his season ended that March. His second season was riddled with injuries as he missed 17 games in January with a left ankle injury, came back, missed periodic time with a toe strain, and then eventually had to call it quits on the season in order to undergo an operation on his right ankle. When he actually played, he didn't do much at all besides disappoint the Minnesota faithful. In his career, he's putting up 7.8 points on poor shooting from pretty much everywhere, 3.3 rebounds and 1.4 assists, really just nothing there to get too excited about. And due to that nonstop disappointment, his card market has cratered since the beginning of 2021. For instance, Jarrett Culver's 2019 Prizm Silver PSA 10 rookie card started out at the turn of the new year at $271.50. Just 8.5 months later, this same card has made its bed at $51, which represents an 81% drop in just 8 months. I wouldn't say I have much confidence in Culver turning his career around, although it really wasn't all that long ago when he was just a sophomore leading the Texas Tech Red Raiders to the NCAA championship game and winning the Big 12 Player of the Year award in the process. And now, after playing just over one season's worth of NBA games since that point, he's still only 22 years old and theoretically could have more to offer. The Memphis Grizzlies are a very nice organization that is focused on player development, unlike the Timberwolves, who were understandably focused on trying to sneak back into the playoffs, and this should be a good fit at this point in Culver's career. I'm not saying it's a lock by any means, but it's certainly an interesting situation for Jarrett Culver and potentially also an interesting investment opportunity. If you want to roll the dice and buy a card for 1/5 of what it was just 8 months ago, that's the kind of interesting risk that can make prospecting rather fun. Low risk, potentially high reward, although again, this is far from a sure thing. In any case, thanks for listening to this week's Charting It Up Basketball Player of the Week.
Welcome everyone, I'm Nate with your Charting It Up baseball segment, and today we are talking about the Witt Jr. Bowman Chrome PSA 9 from 2020 Bowman Draft. Or not 2020 Bowman Draft, 2020 Bowman Baseball. Now, the MLB Pipeline Top 100 revamped edition just came out, and Witt Jr. was number 3. Adley Rutschman was the number 1 prospect. Julio Rodriguez was the number 2 prospect, and sitting there at 3 was Witt Jr. Now, the reason I'm talking about Bobby Witt and not the other two guys is because I think Bobby Witt is uniquely positioned here. Now, hear me out. Adley Rutschman is in AAA, right? And he is probably going to get called up this year, and he's probably going to get some playing time in the MLB and maybe lose his top prospect status, which means you would then have just Julio Rodriguez and Bobby Witt left. And the reason this is interesting, now remember, Witt Jr. is also in AAA, but I think they would probably not call him up this year. He'll get called up at the start of next year just because of how bad the Royals are and how he's only played 25 games and he didn't play in like A-ball. And so he hasn't had that much minor league experience. I think they keep him down. I think Adley Rutschman gets called up, which means only two guys, Julio Rodriguez and Witt Jr. Now, the reason this is important is because if Bobby Witt Jr. can leapfrog Julio based on the strength of him being a shortstop, and I think that is the real kicker here. Julio is the better hitter, but I think because Bobby is a shortstop, he may get the nod at the start of next season as the number one prospect in baseball. They usually like to put the premium defensive positions there. Catcher, shortstop, you get the just center field, that type of thing. So, if Bobby Witt Jr. can leapfrog him, Julio, and get the number one spot, we're looking at prices that could explode. So we're looking at base PSA 9, and we're looking at a 3-month stretch. And 3 months ago, it started out $44 on May 21st. And the most recent sales of this card on August 17th were $48.20 on an average. That's an average of 6 sales. So it's been around the same, within $5 for a very long time. It briefly exploded up there. One sale of $87 and in the 60s and stuff. But otherwise, it's been around the $40 to $50 range. But if he becomes the number one prospect, you could see this card becoming $70, $80, $90 routinely. Wander Franco at one point in May was all the way up to $120 for a base Chrome PSA 9. And so I think this card is uniquely positioned if he doesn't get called up and Rushman does, and he leapfrog Julio Rodriguez. The number one position is a big, big boost to card prices. And I think Bobby Witt Jr. is one of those guys where you don't have to have big money to get into him right now. We're talking $50 or less to get into a Bowman Chrome Base PSA 9. And you could see $30, $40, $50 profits on this card as soon as probably next March. It's interesting. I think it's a play. We'll see how it goes. There needs to be some luck here with them, but I think it is definitely a play for your bargain bin shopping.
What's up, guys? This is the Charting It Up Soccer segment. My name is Zach at Premier Soccer Investing on Instagram, filling in for Aaron this week. And I'm going to be talking about the 2017 Topps Chrome Champions League Mbappé Base PSA 10. So this is a card that over the last 3 months is down still 33%. But if you look at this card over the last week, it has rose from around $885 all the way up to $980 or so. So this card is on the rise, and this is in large part due to Messi's transfer to PSG, the hype around PSG winning the Champions League, as well as some continued transfer rumors from Mbappe this summer, involving complicated swaps with him going to Madrid, Ronaldo possibly going to Madrid or PSG to fill his shoes, this, that, and the other. And however, none of that is going to be happening this summer. Mbappe has 1 more year left on his PSG contract, and he will see it out. And then possibly he signs a new contract should they win the Champions League, which is something I predict and that I'm betting on because I picked up 2 of these base PSA 10 cards at the National, and as well as I do own some other Mbappe. Or he transfers to Real Madrid this next summer. But this is a card that is way, way down from its peak at $2,100 during the Champions League run that PSG had when Mbappe was scoring goals. So even though it's gotten back up to $980, that's still almost a quarter or a third of what it was at its height. With that, you have a lot of room to grow, and I think this card is going to surpass that value of $2,100 over the course of the season, or if not this season, over the next 18 months or so, as you have Mbappe in this PSG side that has such a good chance of winning the Champions League. You have a possible transfer to Real Madrid, which would be massive. And then also, we can't forget about the World Cup in 2022, where France will surely be one of the favorites, and Mbappe is going to be one of the stars of that team. So over the course of the next 18 months or so, there really might not be a better buy on the market than Kylian Mbappe right now, due to so many factors he has that could raise his prices, and due to the immense popularity and collectability he already holds, as basically everyone in the soccer card market has owned or does own an Mbappe card at some point in their collecting journey. And people are enthused about him. He has cross appeal outside the hardcore soccer collectors, with people in basketball and other sports, when they go back into soccer during the hyped moments, Mbappe is a guy they look at. So yeah, this is one card to follow. This is kind of a bellwether card for him, and I predict it's going to surpass the $2,100 value. We'll see. It's at $980 right now, and it has a lot of room to grow. Thanks for listening.
Vover.